What's going on? Holy shit! You just did that to my boat!
Tonight, tensions rise between the DFO and Mi'kmaq fishermen after a recent incident. We'll tell you what happened.
There's a lot of truth here, and I think you need to know the history and the truth before you can reconcile.
Important steps made in Sault Ste. Marie to not forget about the area's residential school history.
And we had people like digging through them already, and I had to be like, wait, we need a minute.
And high school students in Yukon are giving back for Orange Shirt Day. Tanse, good evening. I'm Chris Sinachkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Encounters between Mi'kmaq harvesters and fisheries and oceans officers are sometimes filled with tension, and an example of that happened yesterday in southwestern Nova Scotia. As Angel Moore reports, a Mi'kmaq boat collided with a DFO boat.
It's not safe! It's not safe!
Shawquest Miller is the one speaking on the video as a DFO officer tried to board her boat. It happened just off the waters of Saulnieville Wharf. A DFO Zodiac circles Miller's boat and at one point collides, causing damage.
What's going on? Holy shit! You just did that to my boat!
For a brief moment, the Zodiac gets stuck partially on the hull.
It happened so quick, it was scary. Like, I honestly thought I was going to sink. I thought I was going to die. Like, the whole rail came into the boat. So I was afraid I was going to sink.
Miller is from the Acadia First Nation and owns a boat called Ebony Marie. Her crew were harvesting lobster with Acadia authorized tags. Miller does not know why the fisheries officers boarded her boat.
When they came on my vessel, they did not have any lights, no sirens. They didn't come over the radio to say slow down, to stop. They just ran me as hard as they could for no reason at all. And then came on my vessel looking at everything they could, trying to find something wrong, and they couldn't because I didn't do anything wrong.
The officers checked Miller's catch and said her boat will be repaired.
Whatever needs to be fixed, will get fixed.
Thank you, I appreciate it, but you also know that it needs to be fixed within
14 days.
Yes. Yeah. I have till October 4th.
Miller needs her boat repaired by October 4th to prepare for her community's fishing season.
I'm still in shock. I'm actually scared. If I don't get my boat fixed, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. I don't know how I'm supposed to fish my moderate livelihood. I don't know how I'm going to take care of my kids.
The RCMP told APTN News the investigation into the collision has been concluded and that DFO was in execution of its duties and no criminal offense occurred. The Department of Fisheries did not reply by broadcast time to explain why their officers tried to board Miller's boat. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Jabuktuk, also known as Halifax.
An update now to an arson attack that happened earlier this month at Saskatoon's Evan Hardy Collegiate. The lawyer representing the 14-year-old accused of setting a classmate on fire on September 5th says voices told her to do things before the attack happened. The attack left the other classmate with severe injuries. The lawyer also said before the attack happened, the teenager was admitted into psychiatric care and a nurse practitioner diagnosed her with a psychotic disorder. The teen was also previously diagnosed with autism. The Crown wants to sentence the youth as an adult if convicted. The judge has now granted a psychiatric assessment to determine if the teen is not criminally responsible. A giant floor map of the Great Lakes St. Lawrence River watershed was unveiled in Ottawa on Thursday, just in time for National Day for Truth and Reconciliation on September 30th. The interactive map is a collaboration between Canadian Geographic, Swim Drink Fish, and Avara Media, and it leans heavily on the teachings of Indigenous elders. APTN's Fraser Needham has more.
It's called the Binagami Giant Floor Map. And Kitigan Zibi Elder Claudette Command explains what this means to her.
We're coming in with a good heart, a good spirit with kindness and love for the water. Each and every one of us human beings, no matter the title we hold, no matter the color we are, no matter the creed we follow, we all come from water, each and every one of us. And we must thank the water, and we must respect the water.
Katie Doreen is the education coordinator with Canadian Geographic. She says the map is the product of extensive interviews with elders where they led the way on how the map would be constructed and what it would say.
We weren't just thinking up things or finding things on the internet and going to find elders to get more information out of them and share it as we pleased. We sat with the elders. It took months to build these relationships, and then over time we found out what was important to them, and we amplified those voices in the way that was guided by them.
The map uses what's called augmented reality, meaning you can point a smartphone or tablet at different places on the map, and its story will come to life on that device. Patrick Mataby is with the Binagami Shared Circle, and he says they want to make the map interactive to appeal to both Indigenous and non-Indigenous students.
What we want to do is get out and engage with young people, especially in the schools, not only on the reserves around the Great Lakes watershed, but in various communities in the non-native schools. I think it's really super important that people learn about our history.
Charlene Barehead is the Vice President of Learning and Reconciliation with Canadian Geographic. She says there are a number of things that make the map special, and this includes the unique way it looks at land and water.
We reframe the thought of territory or place or land by the waterways. I think that's one of the things that when you step on this, you can't help but realize how significant and prevalent water is.
The map is available to the public in a number of ways, in person at places like the Canadian Geographic office in Ottawa, online, and in lesson plans that are being made available to schools. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
In 1971, a former residential school in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario was repurposed as a post-secondary institution. It is taking steps to ensure the building's history is not forgotten. The structure that houses Algoma University was once the Shingwak Indian Residential School. And as APTN's Mike McDonald tells us, the main hall at the university has been transformed into a residential school exhibit to educate the public about a dark chapter in Canada's history.
Pictures of Indigenous children line the walls of what is now Shingwak Hall, located in the main building of Algoma University's Sault Ste. Marie campus. They are the children of Shingwak. The president of the Children of Shingwak Alumni Association, whose mother attended the school and was a founding member of the group, urges the public to visit the site.
There's a lot of truth here, and I think you need to know the history and the truth before you can reconcile. So this is a great place to learn, and it's such a beautiful place to learn with the original school here, with the survivors being active on site.
Sisters Jackie Fletcher and Shirley Horn are also founding members of the Children of Shingwak Alumni Association. With regard to truth and reconciliation, Fletcher says the exhibit is a good start.
I hope it's not going to take 100 years to right the wrongs. And we as residential school survivors are really aging now. There's not many of us left. So we need to make sure that the next generation of people carry on our story so this never happens again.
The residential school didn't only hurt the Native people. It hurt the rest of the population as well, because they were excluded from what the country's agenda, and many people didn't know, or to this day even know, about the residential school.
The Shingwak exhibit is a place where stories are shared.
I remember this girl. We were in the senior dorm. I don't know what happened. Some kind of trouble took place. She was there, and the next day she was gone. Never heard from her again. I don't know what happened to her. But anyways, yes, this cubby hole. We used to go in there, and we would just sit and whisper and talk about home. Talk about our brothers and sisters. We might have stolen some bread and we would share the bread in there. Or one of the girls was supposed to be watching out and I got caught. They pulled me out of there and beat me up and said, "You like it in there," and pushed me back and said, "Stay in there." But you could see a little bit of light from around that crack. So I was okay with that, and I thought, well, they'll just leave me in here. They got to come and get me sooner or later because they locked it. They locked me up. Truth and reconciliation is the truth that's being told by survivors, reclaimers, and reconciling with ourselves and with the public. To me, that's how I look at truth and reconciliation.
Events are planned all day on September 30th at Algoma University, starting with a sunrise ceremony at 7:30. Also on the 30th, the public unveiling of the Wawanosh School for Girls Memorial will take place in the afternoon. Mike McDonald, APTN National News, Sault Ste. Marie.
Powerful story. We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation with us. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. The Métis National Council has lost the Manitoba Métis Federation and now Métis Nation Saskatchewan. We have our Truth in Politics panel to tell us what this all means coming up next after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Métis National Council was formed in 1983 after separating from the Native Council of Canada, whose, in their words, a pan-Aboriginal approach to issues did not allow the Métis Nation to effectively represent itself. Now, the MNC itself is breaking apart with the departure of the Manitoba Métis Federation 2 years ago and the Métis Nation Saskatchewan following suit just last week. For more, we are joined now by our Truth in Politics panel. Jennifer Lewitz is with Pasquale Harbour Strategies, and Negon Sinclair is a columnist with the Winnipeg Free Press. Jennifer, what are you hearing about the Métis Nation Saskatchewan pulling out of the MNC, the Métis National Council?
It's actually really interesting in the Prince Albert area. Obviously, we have a very high Métis population. I come from a Métis family on my mom's side. And so my grandma's been heavily involved in our Métis local here. And I know that over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of conversations with the Métis folks, especially across Saskatchewan, on what this actually looks like, because we've seen a lot of changes over the last few years, especially when we start talking about what they are calling modern treaty and, you know, their right to sovereignty and stuff like that. And what I'm hearing is that it's very, very complicated. I think there's some discrepancies with the Métis Nation of Ontario and their citizenship, and a lot of people may be wrongfully claiming Métis heritage. So I think for people in Saskatchewan right now, there's a lot of confusion and people not really understanding what this means in the future and what's happening with the Métis National Council.
What is really going on here, Negon? Why is this once formidable Métis National Council apparently falling apart?
On one level, it's very ironic. Back in the 1980s, when there was constitutional struggles for Indigenous rights, which of course involves Métis rights or impacts Métis rights, members of the Manitoba Métis Federation and what would eventually become, or what was already, a growing, burgeoning national movement of Métis people were going around the country talking to people from different elements of the country, saying, let's go to Ottawa, let's work together, let's create some sort of unity. And then, of course, got many inroads as a result, recognizing Métis people within the constitutional definition of Indigenous peoples, or Aboriginal peoples at the time. And so therefore opened up the conversation on Métis rights. But then zoom ahead now several decades later. And the problem, of course, is that Métis people who are outside of the Red River Métis, the historical nation, a sovereign, autonomous community that have their own culture, tradition, language, coming from the Red River region and spreading throughout northwestern Western Ontario, Alberta, Saskatchewan, that is the Red River Métis Nation. And so people who have ancestral connections out in Ontario and east and even as far as British Columbia, coming from other nations, those are mixed blood people or ancestral Indigenous peoples, but they are not Red River Métis. And so that's where the big schism comes from, especially in Ontario, where the Métis Nation of Ontario for years has recognized communities that have not been recognized by the Red River Métis in Manitoba. It's now Saskatchewan. And so for the Saskatchewan and Alberta were kind of holdouts supporting the MNO. And now, of course, it's now completely fallen apart. The fact is that the Métis National Council cannot hold a meeting now because under the Constitution, 2 of the 3 founding members, that's the Manitoba Métis Federation, Métis Nation of Saskatchewan, Métis Nation of Alberta, those are the 3 founding nations. If 2 of those 3 have pulled out, they actually can't hold a meeting.
No, that's very interesting. And Jennifer, after the Saskatchewan Métis pullout, outgoing MNC President Cassidy Caron said unity was more important than individual issues, such as the questionability of the Métis Nation of Ontario. Is she right about that?
I think that the unity is definitely going to play into the decisions that are happening over the next little bit. I think, you know, it's really hard to say. Like I've seen Métis nations and locals over the last little bit almost butting heads over the decisions that are being made, and I think there's a lot of complexities included in this that, you know, the Métis people are navigating for the very first time. For, you know, me as a First Nations person belonging to a nation, you know, what another nation does sometimes at the end of the day can impact my nation, but we look at our sovereignty almost a little bit differently. And I think the conversation around what we look like under groups like FSIN and AFN is sometimes a little complex for us as well. And is unity always important where all of our nations are on the same page when it comes to FSIN or AFN? Or you know, do we want collective sovereignty nation to nation? And if that's the case for Métis people, what does that actually look like? Because right now they're relying pretty heavily on the governance structures, you know, provincially, and it seems to be a little bit of a mess.
Nigan, really quickly, the Métis Nation of British Columbia says it is looking at its involvement in the Métis National Council. Only one of the founding partners is left at MNC. Is the organization dead? You did comment on this already.
It really doesn't matter what the Métis Nation of British Columbia, with respect to my relatives out in British Columbia, it really doesn't matter. They aren't a founding member, and so they don't have that kind of sway or the power within the Métis National Council to be able to bring the pieces back together, unless they're somehow build a relationship with Manitoba, which is very unlikely, or they're the first to pull out, or this is the Métis Nation of Saskatchewan most recently to pull out. There's a real staunch issue of identifying the Red River Métis as a national government, as a national group, involving those who come from Red River in Manitoba, but then also other affiliated Métis communities. The Manitoba Métis Federation, which is leading the charge, does recognize people who were distributed or moved as a result of way back 100 years ago of what happened for the Métis people to scatter across the prairies, both east and west. And so doesn't really matter anymore. The Métis National Council, and you'll see many different tweets out there from particularly those in the Manitoba Métis Federation who have had a long struggle and conflict with the MNC, saying that the MNC is dead and there's no national movement or a national voice for the Manitoba or for the Métis Nation National Council. So the Manitoba Métis Federation and their other partners, MNO, MNC, MNS, and Manitoba Métis Nation of Alberta, that's the national government of the Métis now, the Red River Métis.
Well, Nigan and Jennifer, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you for your time.
Great. Yeah, thanks.
We have tomorrow's weather forecast and photo of the day coming up next. Plus, our Sarah Connors takes us to a school where students are giving back for Orange Shirt Day.
And we had people like digging through them already. And I had to be like, wait, like we need a minute.
Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. This is from St. Teresa Point, located in eastern central Manitoba. Molly Hochbaum wanted to share this beautiful setting of the sun over the waters of Island Lake. Thank you, Molly, for sending that picture in. For the chance to be our next photo of the day, don't be shy. Send us your pictures to share at aptn.ca. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Over on the East Coast, St. John's 12, Charlottetown 17. Cartwright 18, the Grand River 18 as well. Seguin 19, Gaspé 16. Windsor 23, Ottawa 22. 24 in Timmins, Sioux Lookout, sunny and 21. Puckatawagan 13, Churchill 15. Gimli 23, Barons River 22. Saskatoon 25, sunny and 28 in Regina. Stony Rapids 11, Buffalo Narrows 15. Fort McMurray 13, Fort Chipewyan 14. Calgary 21, Edmonton 20. Tofino 16, Kamloops 23. Dease Lake 4, Fort Nelson 12. 8 in Watson Lake, Mayo 8 as well. Yellowknife 9, Norman Wells 6. Inuvik 2, Sax Harbor 5. 11 in Chesterfield, Baker Lake 9. And Arctic Bay 7, and Resolute 3. The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is right around the corner, and that means many people will be wearing orange shirts. Our Whitehorse reporter Sarah Connors spoke with a high school program that is using Orange Shirt Day to give back to the community.
These grade 10 students in Porter Creek Secondary School's Fashion Art Design School program are learning the basics of fashion retail.
So I picked a small because there was no extra small.
Today, they're releasing almost 200 limited edition orange shirts for the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. This is the 4th year students have sold their merchandise at this Whitehorse sports store. The program's teacher says the shirts are a big hit with customers.
People want these shirts. We just brought up the 3 boxes, and we had people like digging through them already. And I had to be like, wait, we need a minute.
Today, students are learning everything from folding to organizing a display so it stands out. But the program is also focused on giving back. All proceeds from the sales of these shirts will be donated to the Committee on Abuse in Residential School Society, or CARES.
For them to give back, to support the community is really the main goal.
Grade 12 graphic design student Harlan Koizan, who is tall 10, designed one of the shirt's logos. He says the imagery is important to him and his First Nations culture.
I looked at it as a way to just give thanks to my cultural background and represent where I came from mainly.
Koizan is looking forward to seeing his design worn on September 30th.
It feels great to have my design out and about and getting out there, showing what I'm capable of.
The shirts are expected to sell out over the next few days. CARES will provide an Every Child Matters award of $500 to 4 graduating student graphic designers next year. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
Thank you, Sarah, and great job, students. That's your evening newscast for this Thursday, September 26th. We'll be back again tomorrow with more stories for your midday newscast. Make sure to join us then. From everyone at APTN National News, hi, miigwech, masicho. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again. Ekse.